Read the disclaimers, and please use common sense.
So do you remember when I made that video titled Friendship with Transformers Over a few weeks ago? I need to talk about that real quick. The video title and thumbnail were meant to be nothing more than a fun little jab at content farms that legitimately try to increase their viewership by stirring up trouble in fandoms. I didn't expect anyone to take it seriously, but a friend of mine that I've had since middle school did take it seriously, and it caused him a little bit of anxiety over the future of collecting. Now, no one in the comment section of the video itself said that it also did that to them, but if it did cause you anxiety, I'm sorry about that. Further to that point, I don't want to give anyone the impression that I'll stop reviewing Transformers forever as long as I live. If anything, just view this as me taking a break from Transformers. There are quite a few toy lines out there that use transforming robots that turn into vehicles as their main gimmick, and I'd like to see what other options are out there, especially while my main squeeze is going through a bit of a crisis right now. And where better to start than the transforming robot toy line that's been taking the internet by storm these days. And by that I mean at least a third of Gavin Spence's uploads, Metal Cardbot. So come with me, denizens of the internet, and let's try not to have our standards raised unrealistically high as we commence our analysis of Metal Cardbot Power Class Steelhook. Let's start by answering a few simple questions. What is Metal Cardbot exactly? Where does it come from? Who are the characters? What are the deets? Metal Cardbot is the story of Jun Grant, just your average boy with spiky blue anime protagonist hair. One day, Jun's totally normal life is interrupted by transforming alien robots that can turn into vehicles. Where have I heard that one before? These aliens are the Metal Cardbots, refugees from the planet Machina. The end of the battle between giant alien robots in his backyard should be where Jun's involvement in the plot ends. However, the aliens leave behind their special alien bracelet, which gives him powers beyond human comprehension. Pretty sure I've heard that plot point somewhere before too. And now, with the power of the Star Guardian Blue Cop and this shiny snazzy new toy, I mean plot MacGuffin, Jun can now capture defeated Metal Cardbots and summon these powerful aliens at will. I swear I've heard that one before twice somehow. Meanwhile, Black Hook, rebranded Steelhook here in the West for reasons that should be obvious to anyone with a functioning brain, was the pirate captain of the fearsome Black Hook crew, comprised of himself, the brilliant but traitorous inventor Buster Gallon, and the dim-witted muscle of the group Buffalo Crush. This triumphant trio of bodacious buccaneers served as major antagonists throughout the lattermost third of the first season, constantly trying and failing to acquire the shiny MacGuffin known as the Metal Brace. Trio planned on capturing the Metal Brace to become the rulers of all Metal Cardbots, all the while completely oblivious to the fact that Metal Cardbots cannot use the Metal Brace on each other. But that's more than sufficient preamble for this video. Let's get into what makes Metal Cardbot truly special. The gosh darn toys. And that all starts out in alternate mode because holy crap, I've never seen a sailboat transform before, and this looks awesome. And already you may start to see why I'm so much more enamored with Metal Cardbot at the moment than I am Transformers. This has personality. Someone get King K. Rool on the line because this is a serious gangplank galleon. From these soulful eyes that are in all honesty a wee bit cartoonish, to the lethal spike on its lengthy bow, standing alongside magnificent sails with, I guess, prima gems from Genshin Impact emblazoned upon them. And betwixt both four-pronged stars sits medieval heraldry of a shark! Oh good heavens, that voice crack. And between the four-pronged stars sits medieval heraldry of a shark! I also gotta say that one of the most salient features of this figure is the color breakup, especially in alternate mode. And what's extra praiseworthy about it is that while some of it is paint, like the eyes, the red cannons, and this brassy gold trim around the sides of the bow, a whole lot more of it is just differently colored pieces of plastic. Granted, it's doing no favors for the back 2/5 of the upper deck, because it ends up with bigger gaps than the teeth of JoJolian's protagonist, and makes the kibble much more obvious. But I feel more inclined to forgive this figure than I do any Hasbro figures currently, because, well, I think it's better shown off in robot mode. As for why I can forgive it in ship mode, I think that's down to the fact that I love its sense of identity. Not just among transforming robot toys in general, but also among his fellow Metal Cardbots. Every single other Metal Cardbot figure released in the US Wave 1 lineup has been, for better or worse, pretty sober when it comes to their alternate mode. Mech Tackle, standard garbage truck. Blue Star, standard police car. Bluster Gale, standard bulldozer. But transforming figures of boats in general, let alone sailboats, are anything but standard in these toy lines. Heck, sometimes these toy lines don't even get to boats because they're too preoccupied with trucks, spaceships, helicopters, and tanks. It's almost like companies are too afraid to make them because they just don't make sense in most shows. Like, why have a character that can explore 2/3 of the world when we instead have characters that can explore the parts of the world that humans live on already? Boats need water to work, so you'll be lucky if you get as many as 2 in any single line of Transformers, and even luckier if only one of them is good. So getting to see Metal Cardbot, what is ostensibly the new kid on the block when it comes to transforming robot toy lines, taking a stab at ships within its first year, and a pirate ship at that, and more importantly having it turn out so well, I don't know, there's something about that that's kind of empowering. Then again, maybe that has something to do with the pure size of this figure. If I had to compare power class to anything from Transformers, this would basically be a Voyager class figure. Hey, wait a second, that's not the kind of Voyager I mean. Get that weak shit out of here! No, no, no. This is the kind of Voyager I'm talking about. The kind of Voyagers that were available during the early to mid-2000s. The kind from the Unicron trilogy and the original Bayverse duology. The kind of chunktacular figures with dense, meaty plastic, plenty of play features, and, in robot mode, plenty of articulation to pair along with it. And to actually demonstrate just how much larger he is than modern Voyagers, let's do a few size comparisons, such as my last toy review, the Wave 1 Galaxy class Kamen Rider Blokies, his Transformers counterpart, Legacy United Thundertron, the last Voyager class I paid $34.99 for, Age of the Primes Alpha Trion, a modern Leader class figure, Transformers Age of the Primes, the 13 Megatronus the Fallen, Metal Cardbot Blue Star, who is basically comparable to the Metal Cardbot line's deluxe class, the first Metal Cardbot I ever purchased from AliExpress, Buffalo Crush, the first figure in the US release's intermediary price point, the Mega class, Bluster Gale, my other basically deluxe class Metal Cardbot, Shadow X, the other figure in the Power class, which is comparable to the Voyager class price point, Mech Tackle, some of my other boat Transformers like G1 Sea Spray, Mini Warriors, MANATEE, which I'm guessing is based on Reveal the Shield Deep Dive, Iron Factory Surfing Arrow, which is basically their Sea Spray, Retro Packaging Deluxe Class Sea Spray, and of course a standard Qtama, standard can of sparkling water, and a standard G1 Minibot. And now for an exclusive size comparison that will be made in every future Metal Cardbot video, the Metal Card! Yes, the central gimmick of this toy line are the Metal Cards. I mean, it is most of the name, so they better be important. And they're honestly somewhere between a Minicon and a Cyber Key. You transform them and slap them onto the figure and suddenly they have a new weapon. But for as cool as these are, they do have a fatal flaw. The Metal Card has absolutely nowhere to go in vehicle mode. When they're not being used as weapons, they're just bricks that are lying around doing nothing, taking up space. Though I personally think it's better off this way. This line really doesn't need its own Micronus Prime if you catch my drift. Not to mention that some of the more recent Metal Cardbots have metal cards big enough to form, well, entire horse butts. God, I can't wait for Agabus to import this. They also end up looking like Wonder Ride books most of the time, albeit with a lot less talking! Man, and here I thought I liked to be long-winded. As for other major flaws, I suppose the bow of the boat doesn't lock in the best, and, well, for that matter, neither does the sail. And on top of that, the sail's also kinda small for the entire ship. The deck really doesn't have the space for a proper haul of pirates' booty, or the crew for that matter. Not to mention, he's the only Metal Cardbot who didn't make any meaningful attempt to hide the head. But and I don't think I've said this since I reviewed Cyclonus from Kingdom, I can see where my money went. I am experiencing value, and perhaps most importantly of all, I don't feel cynical about this. And who knows, maybe if Hasbro takes a stab at making a pirate ship in the future, I'll be able to say the same things about it. Seriously though, where the fuck is my $17 going? Okay, enough ripping on Hasbro. Let's get back to glazing Steelhook here, because the robot is like nothing you've ever seen before.
I'll make you swap the deck and then I'll throw you in the brig. I swear I'll make you hook a plank to right the wrong you did. The day you mess with scurvy, I wish you'll never mourn. When the coconut is mine, then you'll feel his pirate sword.
You know, for a robot mode that's this styling, you surprisingly get here with a very simple transformation. Now, in the sake of fairness, it does have a few cool moves, such as these butterfly joints that bring out the shoulders. But ultimately, it is simple, and that's a refreshing break from most Transformers I'm used to. Now, don't take that as a condemnation of modern Transformer complexity. Transformation complexity is simply a feature of a toy, and it can be executed well or poorly. For example, a well-executed simple transformer will feel like a desk toy, a fidget you can use to focus on your homework. But a poorly executed simple transformation will feel like it stops before it starts. Conversely, a good complicated transformation will feel like a brain teaser, something to keep you occupied for a while you listen to your lecture. While most of the poorly executed complicated transformations that I've experienced will make you feel like tearing your hair out would be a less painful experience. And the worst of them will make you feel like committing murder. But Steelhook is not complicated, he's simple, and he's the good kind of simple. The kind of simple you'd expect from a Unicron trilogy figure. No, not you again. Get out of here, you ass monkey. Yeah, there we go, the actual Unicron trilogy. It makes me weirdly nostalgic for my childhood, and I say weirdly nostalgic because, well, I genuinely don't know what nostalgia feels like. Closest I think I've ever gotten has either been these Tobot Combiner figures that reminded me of playing with my Megazord toys as a kid, or playing the opening of Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Grown man I may be, but I'm not above admitting when a game made for kids makes me cry. Anyways, let's awkwardly segue into what's most apparent about this figure just from looking at it. And that is, well, its looks. I'm trying to be less hyperbolic these days, but genuinely this robot mode is super dripped out. For one, name me another Transformer that has an 18th century pirate's jacket on, not to mention the unspoken riz of this head sculpt with the tri-corner hat and the eye patch. And he has a belt buckle. Man, this guy is just so dapper that I'm honestly feeling a little underdressed right now.
Look at this distinguished gentleman. Look at the way he is sitting. Yes, very distinguished. I see.
Hate to say it, but it well and truly outshines any other pirate Transformer that ever was, though that's not hard when the only competition in my collection happens to be Legacy United Thundertron. Though while he undeniably styles on Thundertron from the looks department, the mechanical department might be another story. With mayhaps the biggest issue being... Youch, this squeaky joint here. I've literally got no idea why it was doing this, but it was so bad that I had to disassemble the entire arm just to operate on this one joint. And in the end, I have no idea how I fixed it. I just sanded down parts of the bicep swivel until it stopped squeaking at me. But that's really the only issue I had with the figure overall. I guess I could complain about the fact that it is missing a few crucial pieces of articulation, but it's missing so little that it feels like needless nitpicking on my part. For one, the head is ball jointed with far greater range than most Chug figures have. The shoulders have universal movement featuring both shoulder rotation and outwards movement, not to mention the bicep swivel. You get a pretty deep bend at the elbow, and you get sword wielding wrists, or at least that's what Perspective End calls them. Moving downwards, we can see that not only do the hips have universal movement, but a thigh swivel as well. A knee bend that is slightly underwhelming, and perhaps one of the deepest toe bends I've ever seen in my life. That means the only only things missing are a waist swivel, wrist swivels, and an ankle pivot. But even without those, the range of movement is still respectable. Whether he's running away from Thundertron and his crew with all the booty in tow, vanquishing the Star Guardians alongside his crew, or cowering in fear from a surly mimic that impersonated a treasure chest, he's got enough range to be both dynamic and expressive. And in part, he owes that to his melee weapon, the Captain's Hook. So far as I'm aware, this is the first instance, and possibly the best instance, of weapon parts forming in the Metal Cardbot line. The Captain's Hook was originally this big spike on the ship's bow, and by unfolding it, we turn it into this massive anchor for him to use. Or if you're that toy guy, it's a pickaxe. But I mean, like, is it though? It looks exactly like an anchor. Or I guess if you left it folded up, it could be a vaudeville dancer's cane, you know, for a pirate. Look, all I'm gonna say is that his melee weapon is fantastic, even if it's not the most immediately piratey weapon he could have had. But honestly, I have a hard time finding fault with the weapon overall when the figure is this big. For reference, here he is next to Galaxy Class Spanner, Voyager Class Thundertron, Voyager Class Alpha Trion, Leader Class Megatronus the Fallen, Stealth Class Blue Cop, Buffalo Crush, Bluster Gale, Shadow X, Mech Tackle, Sea Spray, Deep Dive, Sea Spray, and Sea Spray. I mean a standard Qtama, standard Cam Sparkling Water, standard G1 Minibot, and his metal card. And the size isn't the only selling point of this figure. We still haven't gotten onto his gimmick, the metal card. Because what pirate, nay pirate ship, would be complete without a cannon? And after a simple if somewhat squishy conversion, we're left with his main metal card weapon, the Captain's Cannon. It's a nice little artillery unit with a clear green targeting reticle, a gorgeous golden main body, and a very wide and stubby tip. Please don't laugh at that. I hate using genres as adjectives, but this is tokusatsu as heck. Like some totally random-ass mech suit or power-up that comes in at the 11th hour and totally obliterates the shit out of whatever monster was troubling the heroes. The only downside is that it is totally incompatible with the vehicle mode. You can attach it, but you have to untransform the arms, and that just looks bad. Besides, his vehicle mode already has cannons. Does he need more? And no, the vehicle mode cannons are not big enough for blast effects. I tried. Now, there is a bit more good news and bad news when it comes to the metal cards, specifically from the first season. As you can hopefully see, all of the metal cards from the first season are made out of translucent plastic. And if you can't see that, thank you for listening to the video anyways, I appreciate you. In recent years, clear plastic has become infamous for its fragility. The good news, and I have this on good authority from my friend, Silverfoil, the Metal Cardbot releases available on Agabus in the USA are identical to the Korean release, and not the Chinese release. The Chinese release has a few significant differences from the Korean release, primarily that they have more paint, and also that the plastic used for the metal cards is a bit clearer. If it's truly a one-to-one case, then the Korean release was much better designed for longevity using softer plastic and looser joints. Meanwhile, the Chinese release uses a much more rigid material and tighter joints. I mean, you can see just how much difficulty I'm having in moving the joints here. It's completely unreasonable. If you didn't know this, rigid, brittle materials can't handle stress over a period of time. Forgetting even the stress that would come from the hinges at the top for a moment, this material can't even handle the stress of being plugged into the chest over a long period of time. It's lost all of its clips. So while the American release will be fine, be careful when ordering them on AliExpress, as it's likely the Chinese release. And now I'm actually gonna have to buy the American release so I can get a shield that doesn't fall off. Which, if you couldn't already tell somehow, I genuinely hope that that happens. We know that they have plans to release the rest of the Season 1 cast in the near future thanks to Miss Y on Twitter, but unfortunately that probably won't happen if Wave 1 doesn't sell well. That's why I'm hopefully going to make the next couple of reviews all about Metal Cardbot. I don't just want this line to succeed in the West, I feel like on some level it needs to succeed in the West. Remember how I started off this video by saying let's try not to have our standards raised too high? Well, that's because these figures have set a new standard by which I judge Transformers. Before this, my grasp on whether or not figures were worth the price of admission was based solely on Transformers. Stuff like Tobot seemed thoroughly out of my price range, so I felt there was no need to engage with it. I mean, why spend more of my time and money importing stuff when I can just get the stuff that I want faster and cheaper over here? But then 2024 happened. I discovered AliExpress, a website that didn't solve the time problem when it came to importing stuff, but did solve the money problem. And no, I was not paid to say any of this. Remember all those Kamen Rider blocky build streams I did last year? That was because of AliExpress. But then in late 2025, the price of Transformers went up for reasons I won't get into, and it hasn't come back down. I felt like I've been effectively priced out of my own favorite hobby by the company that makes said hobby possible. I was dreading the prospect of settling for less until Metal Cardbot came along and proved that yes, this size and weight was still possible in the modern day at modern prices. The reason I haven't mentioned the price to this point is because I don't want to lessen its impact during this final section. This figure costs $34.95 minus shipping. That cost to figure ratio has effectively ruined mainline Transformers for me. It's why I've been bullying Age of the Primes Armada sideways since the start of the video. This was the first Transformer I got after tasting the ambrosia of the Metal Cardbot line. Hasbro dares to tell me that this figure is not only equal to, but $7 in excess of this $35 masterpiece? Most blasphemous. Be gone with thee! But I think what really ruined Transformers for me, at least at the moment, is the fact that I decided to weigh them and compare the prices to their weight. For example, Animated Optimus weighs 156 grams with his axe included and costed $34.99 when he came out. Jumping ahead 2 years to Age of the Primes Brawl, he weighs 136 grams and costs $42.99. Now compare that to Steelhook and his metal card, and he weighs 365 grams but costs $34.99. That's almost 3 times as heavy as Brawl for the price of Animated Optimus. And let's not even bring Unicron Trilogy figures into the mix. Between the electronics and the cheaper price, it's not even remotely fair. Just as it's unfair to say that my perception of Transformers has been completely ruined by Metal Cardbot. If you want well-articulated, perfectly proportioned action figures, then Metal Cardbot isn't going to be for you. If you enjoy Transformers for grounded and realistic alternate modes, you should look elsewhere. If your attachment to Transformers is via nostalgia, be it for the cartoons or the toys, this isn't for you. If the idea of vehicles having eyes is too doofy for you, I get it. You do you. And if you come to transforming toy robots for a degree of challenge in transforming them between modes, you better look elsewhere. Metal Cardbot isn't about any of that. It's simple fun for kids, but if you're like me, someone who prefers a lot more personality in your transforming robots than you've been getting from Hasbro, if you yearn to return to the times of the early 2000s, back when figures were chunky and awesome, if you don't mind feeling like a kid again, if you're someone who still plays as an adult, if your sensibilities for display and play match with mine, if you want to celebrate diversity in design, creativity, and imagination, then Metal Cardbot is for you. Now don't take that as me saying you should move on from Transformers. I may not know what nostalgia feels like, but if you feel nostalgic for Transformers and that's what's keeping you around, then good for you. Keep on enjoying what you enjoy. If you like this series for any reason, be it the characters, both popular and obscure, the comics, the video games, the real world behind the scenes trivia, the legacy of the series, the crossovers, any part of it and almost every part of it is a valid reason to stick around. Don't gotta move on if you don't want to move on. And if you want to move on from Transformers and you're having trouble doing so, I get it. Transformers has made a huge impact on my social life, and you couldn't convince me to trade that for the world. But as a toy collector, I have no sense of brand loyalty, or a desire to stay still for long. I like to keep moving forward, and I hope you'll follow the path moving forward with me. From robotic football players to ninjas to... the road ahead looks like a lot of fun. And until next time, this is Firebite27, over and out.